Cart, cart, cart. Cart!
Funny Games is a 1997 home invasion thriller that's written and directed by Mikhail Haneke. So, Funny Games won last week's patron poll, and honestly, I didn't really know fully how to feel about it because I had seen the American remake of Funny Games like 3 or 4 different times. And it's a film that I've genuinely liked for quite some time because my relationship with Funny Games is really interesting because it's a film that I basically saw back when I was in high school, essentially when it first came out. I think I was in either like 8th or 9th grade when this film came out, and I remember stumbling upon it because I was just really bored and I was super into the horror genre at the time. And I mean, I still am. That still lives up to this very day. But at the time, I just wanted to watch a horror film, and everything that was out at the time just didn't interest me. I had either already seen it or I just, wasn't really into it. And then I stumbled upon this film just by doing a bunch of like Google searches going on websites and stuff. And I learned about this film and I watched the trailer to it and I was like, this looks like something that I would like to watch. I remember coming out of the film really liking it, but at the same time, I remember also being a little bit turned off by its overall approach. It's because at the time I've never really been exposed to something that had this kind of unorthodox approach, especially to the home invasion genre. But the whole point is that I've seen this film quite a bit. I think the last time I rewatched it was probably a year ago, and I've seen it like 3 or 4 times before that. So I had a pretty good idea of this film already, and I knew that the original is basically shot for shot the same thing as the American remake. So I really didn't know how to feel about going into this film. I really wasn't too excited because I feel like it's a film that I've already seen many different times. And coming out of the original Austrian Funny Games, it's kind of hard to decide which one I like better because they're essentially the same movie. But in terms of differences, I will have to say that the overall atmosphere and also the acting felt a lot more visceral and a lot more genuine and realistic. And I'm not trying to throw shade at Naomi Watts or Tim Roth because I think they also did an excellent job in their role in the American remake. But the acting here in the Austrian one just feels undoubtedly more heart-wrenching and a little bit more emotionally disturbing in my opinion. And I'm really referencing not necessarily the psychopaths in the film, but the husband and wife character. Especially this actress who plays the wife. There are some scenes in this film where you really buy every ounce of emotion that's coming from her. Same with the husband character though, because the husband has his certain scenes that really make you feel uncomfortable because you feel like this is something that's truly genuine, even though you're just watching the movie, and the film makes it incredibly apparent that you're just watching a movie multiple times throughout it. And I'll dive more into that later. But the point is that I feel like the original one feels a bit more genuine and a bit more realistic. And honestly, I think that is not only thanks to the acting, but also just like the color grading and the color palette of this film. Because the American remake of Funny Games has this kind of like classic 2000s horror gray tint to it. That makes it feel like kind of hollow and soulless. And when it comes to the Austrian version, the lighting and the color palette has a lot more natural of a feel to it and a more natural look to it. And I think that's something that really enhances the experience, at least in my opinion, because again, it makes it feel a lot more real. So when those really uncomfortable and intense scenes happen, not only is the acting more visceral, but just the atmosphere feels a lot more genuine. But obviously what I love so much about this film was the overall goal of it. And this is apparent, obviously, with both the American remake and the original. But what Funny Games does, in terms of just what its goal is, at least in my opinion, is that it's basically making a statement against audience members who only view film as an entertainment medium. Because it's a film that never blatantly shows, well, except, I guess, at least for one moment, but even that one moment, is retracted in also a way that just completely slaps the audience in the face. But besides one moment of actual, like, on-screen violence, this film doesn't really show you anything, like any kind of blatant graphic violence, in terms of, like, blood and gore or anything like that. Most of the violence is either shown slightly off-screen or through its sound design is expressed through off-screen space. And to me, this is obviously something that's intentionally done to make it seem not only more disturbing and realistic, but to also kind of subvert what your normal audience would expect out of a home invasion thriller. Because when it comes to, again, like the on-screen violence and gore that someone would kind of expect out of a film like this, it takes a backseat to all that and instead gives them something that is not only a lot slower in pace to what they're used to. And I think it's quite hilarious because technically I was that person when I was in high school. I was just somebody who wanted to watch, you know, your next horror home invasion type of suspense film. And this is what I got. And luckily I reacted more positively than negatively to it. And I love how, you know, as I mature and grow older, I realize what the ultimate goal of this film was and why certain artistic decisions were made. But yeah, like, this is a film that, in my opinion, through all of its artistic visions and techniques, is intentionally trying to make a statement against those who just watch film as an entertainment medium. And I think, in that sense, this film demonstrates that beautifully because you get some really intense and really emotional and uncomfortable scenes because of how he portrays the sadism in this film. And in a way, like, you can view the characters, like the actual psychopaths in this film, you can view the psychopaths as either the director, Michael Haneke himself, not in the sense that he's a psychopath or whatever, but in the sense that he is intentionally toying with the audience and, you know, kind of playing off the genre tropes. But I also think in a way that the audience is also reflected in these psychopaths because the audience, not all of them obviously, but, you know, there's a number of people who went into this film you know, wanting violence for entertainment. And in a way, this film is kind of slapping them in the face and forcing them to reassess themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, you know, why do they go to film for violence for entertainment?
Are you not entertained?
Like, what's the real appeal, you know, psychologically behind you wanting to watch a film for that reason? And I do like that. I think that the vision here and how Haneke expresses these themes are really interesting because you never really get films like this that at least try to demonstrate this point in the way that he does. But what I will have to say about this film is that it also tries to be a bit meta, and there are some fourth wall breaks in this film that I just really couldn't get behind because, you know, I get why they're there, like in terms of just artistic intent. Like, I totally get why he did it. Like, again, there's some that work. Like, I think the one where one of the psychopaths looks at the camera and winks. Like, I think that's just cheeky and fun, and I thought that worked really well. But then there's other parts where the psychopath is looking at the camera and asking the audience certain questions about, you know, the kind of like philosophical, moral questions about where they stand. And I don't know, like, I'm somebody that even though I get the artistic intention, I don't like to be just drastically taken out of the film like that. Because it's one of those things where you're just really sucked into this film and then something like that just really pulls you out, and I totally get that that was more than likely Haneke's intent. Like, he kind of wants to pull everybody out of it. But, you know, I'm not that audience member who just watches film for entertainment. So, like, that doesn't really apply to me, so I feel like I shouldn't be taken out the same way that other people are. I mean, I do find violence entertaining in film. Like, that's just obvious. Like, I mean, Tarantino is a perfect example. Like, a lot of the way he uses violence is just there for entertainment value as well. And I don't mind it. I have a lot of fun with it. But, you know, I'm not someone who just watches film for entertainment value. So, like, it's a little bit annoying for somebody who watches this film and is sucked into the overall approach. And then you get moments like that just completely take you out of the film. And also, I think the third act of this film drags just a little bit. I don't think it drags that much, but it definitely hits a point to where, you know, I'm just kind of wanting the ball to roll here. And it has nothing to do with pace either, because, again, this film is slow-paced. And there are some stationary shots in this film that linger for a very long time, and I don't really have a problem with that. It's just, I guess, the narrative and some of the story details, I feel like it gets to a point where you don't really need this much to happen, and we can kind of just move the film along. But those are really my only criticisms of the film. I still really enjoy the film quite a bit. I mean, obviously, I own the original on Criterion. I owned it for such a long time, still haven't watched it until just now. But, yeah, this is a film that I still really like quite a bit. And the song in this film that's used like in the opening title, one of the best opening title sequences I've ever seen in my entire life. I adore the hell out of it. I think it's quite brilliant in a lot of ways. And to this day, I'm still convinced that that is a song you hear when you wake up in the middle of the night with a spider on your balls. But anyway, I'm going to give the original Funny Games a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, Michael Haneke is such a brilliant filmmaker. I can't wait to dive even more into his works, because so far I've seen The Piano Teacher, Cache, Amour, and Funny Games. I definitely want to watch The White Ribbon soon. I keep putting it on polls, and it gets close to winning, but it just can't get there. But yeah, I'm gonna keep putting Haneke films on polls and just, see if they win eventually. But either way, that's all I gotta say about the original Funny Games. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about it, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.